Hello, I am James Craig. I'm an independently published author, mostly science fiction. Right here is my latest cyberpunk book. And I stick to prose novels because, A, I enjoy the art form. Don't get me wrong, that's definitely part of it. But I have aspirations of getting into the comic and graphic novel scene. However, it seems a little dysfunctional right now. I find myself looking in from the outside, watching other people's experiences with it, and most problematically, the way major creators are interacting with each other and behaving and what they do to get attention. And I'm trying to look at how that attention is impacting other people and the basically the network that's supposed to enable it doesn't seem to be working well. My conclusion is kind of black pilled that until you're actually a rather sizable like YouTuber or something, you simply can't successfully crowdfund at a competitive price for a variety of reasons. Now, if you've been following the channel, you may have seen my recent video on a statistical analysis of word of mouth. And I'm going to cover those major points again to try and explain my position on why I'm saying things I'm saying. But I don't want to be black pilled, so I brought on a counterexample. I have with me tonight HOJO, who is already on his second campaign for the Mythicals too, and you can definitely find his links in the description because honestly, I invited him on for him to convince me that I'm wrong. Welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. Welcome. Chat.
Yeah, chat is active today. We've got Edwin, Dino, John, you, double dipping. By the way, YouTuber things, I do need subscribers and likes and comments, and I won't bother you guys about the algorithm stuff. I do need the algorithm stuff. Okay, so to firstly explain what I mean, there is a big difference between crowdfunding and pre-orders. Because Hojo, have you noticed, and am I just wrong, that 9 out of 10 crowdfunding projects that I see advertised, particularly on Twitter, I'm very active on Twitter, right? And in circles like Comicsgate or Iron Age, which I watch, they are writers that are gathering money so they can pay a good illustrator to bring their vision to life.
Yep.
I never see it the other way around. I never see an artist paying a writer to give them something good to illustrate.
I haven't at the crowdfunding level. The writers aren't sought after. It's a visual medium, for one. There are a lot of artists that think this, and I'm not bashing anybody, and he knows who I'm talking. It's Donald DeLay says, you don't need writers. If you can tell a good graphic story, visual story, I guess you don't need a writer. But what if, the shoe is on that other foot and, you're talking to an artist, and this isn't at the initial level, but once you make a book, you talk to an artist, you're like, dude, that sounds like a great idea. But you can collaborate. But no, I haven't seen any. There are writers now, that do get paid from other artists, or they take them in. Like, I know, I guess if you have like a few books, a few IPs, you can farm them out, like Mark Bolton does that too.
That's kind of what happened with like Shad and Brooks.
Yeah,
he got approached by his illustrator for the graphic novel adaptation, which I'm actually hopeful is going to be good. I'm interested in the reviews on that because a competent trimming down of his novel would make for a really good story. Like it is that book was built in a lot of ways to be a action comic sequence.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe it's a subject for another night. My issue with the fact that people think writing is a something anyone can do, but that it's not an artistic skill set. Because I've seen major creators that you might think of, a 3-letter acronym, who clearly has no respect for writing as an art form.
Oh yeah, yes, I know that. It's I don't have a good answer for you there. But there are ways that an artist can get better at writing.
Sure, practice.
Todd McFarlane, and then they appreciate it. They appreciate it more I don't call myself a writer. I just feel weird saying that, but I call myself a storyteller. I tell stories. That's what I've done that since I was a child. But I tried to hone my skills as a writer by analyzing comic books and looking at different books like the Eisner books and just picking apart writers' brains and writers that I like. And guess what? And Alan Moore's right. You may shit on them, but read bad books. If you read bad comics, you know what a bad comic is. You're like, I could do this better. I saw bad comics out there. I did better.
We've got this comment in the chat that ideas are relatively easy compared to illustrations, and we all know that that's technically correct. I just want to push back and say that it's not the key idea that you would be paying for.
Yeah.
It's all the bad ideas, or sorry, uninspiring ideas that go into building the foundation for that good idea. Like, if you really want to build up to a story where the main character has to go on this, is on the back of a pickup truck with a Gatling gun, driving away from a horde of demon beasts chasing him so he can go save his girlfriend or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyone can come up with that idea, but
Yes.
not anybody can actually make the readers care about all the characters and understand all the pieces at play and the pacing and all that. It's the stuff that people miss and forget about. That's where the difficulty is.
Yes. It's the thing about ideas is quite literally anyone can do it. Anyone can have an idea, but being able to shape that idea and mold it, as a lump of clay, anything being able to chip away at it, that's the writing. To be able to show everybody what you saw in your head, and everybody looks at it and like they see it come together, and they're like, "Oh, now I get it." You saw it in the Image books in the '90s. Everybody loves Image. Like, I always talk about it as like everybody loves, that cover to Youngblood #1. Do you know what Youngblood 2 looked like? Like,
I do have to point out I am not a comics guy. I'm actually a
I
manga.
know.
We've
But
got a
any
big ass
comic book
collection back
fan
to
reading
more
this or
players.
watching this will know. But the way with comic books is, like I said, it's a visual medium, but it's a story as well. The art sells the book, but the story sets the hook. Like, if you want to put it in like a fishing
Absolutely.
service. So that's what brings them back. You have to bring them back for #2. But to circle back to crowdfunding, the writer has that idea and they're just trying to make this dream happen. I'm like, okay, well, obviously I can't draw. I'm not saying they can't draw, but like, it's an overwhelming percentage of these writers that can't
We
draw,
can use
or
me
else
as
they
an
wouldn't.
example. Here, one sec.
Yes, or else they wouldn't.
I cannot draw.
You can eventually, though, if you apply yourself.
Well, yes, it is a skill set. I spent the next
Yeah.
3 to 5 years practicing it specifically at the expense of everything else that goes into the endeavor. Yeah, eventually I could do it.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, I can draw. I'm just slow and I'm way too critical. I'm a perfectionist, and that's all my inker up there, Lirio Inks. That's the guy who inks my book. That dude's a perfectionist, but it's well worth it because he's mastered his craft, and that's why I picked him. So,
okay,
crowdfunding is necessary.
A long way for me to say that I think it's actually reasonable for the writer to be the owner of a project and to hire basically a freelance illustrator to do the visual work to it. I think that's totally fine because they're different skill sets, right?
Yes.
I don't know.
And with writing comics, you're dealing with somebody who has, like, for the most part, has been, say you've got somebody that's been doing it for about 10 years. They more than likely went to art school. They've studied graphic storytelling, visual storytelling, and being able to break down a page of a comic script, and make that flow from A to B to C to D. Like, the eye flow, it's an art. Like, it is a science.
Oh yeah, I've definitely.
Well, they take that script sometimes and they look at it like, all right, these 2 panels, that should be 1 panel. I can do this in 1 panel and it'll be better. And you get more art and more, oh my God, from the reader. So it is definitely, in my case, a very collaborative effort. There are some like that have been doing it a long time, or even starting out, or like draw what I say. Sometimes I'll in some of my panels I'll get super specific, or I've even thumbnailed out a few things myself, and then that's how I see things. I see things visually. A lot of writers don't do that, so they'll just write a big long diatribe. Alan Moore is a very good example. He would write sometimes a page for a panel because that's how he saw it. He's a little long winded on that, but if I have to, I will. And sometimes I'll write I know in a panel when I was writing a fight scene in a panel, I wrote "go nuts" in parentheses. That means show them what you got.
So I obviously I'm a little self-centered in my interest here because, as I mentioned, I do want to get into the graphic novel space. I think it is a fantastic art form. Are you familiar with the concept of tricycles, though, or sometimes called fail cycles?
Maybe by another. Explain it to me.
Basically, if you want to get better at something, anything really, you have to do it to completion, and then do it again, even if it comes out bad. Particularly if it comes out bad. This is why you get generic advice from people like Brandon Sanderson, where it's just like you probably need to write 10 books before you have one that is worth publishing, because you need to take the process to completion. And it is the act of making the full product that will actually teach you and ingrain into you what makes that product good, so you can do it better the next time.
Yep.
Which is doable with manuscripts. You actually can just kind of sit in a basement and grind them out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have to work those muscles, man. You have to. I mean, even Rocky had to train.
Yeah. That's one of my big concerns with crowdfunding a graphic novel is you can't actually get your practice in particularly quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So you're on the Mythicals too, which, by the way, if you ever want to interrupt with a big shill, go right ahead. That is definitely you're welcome to do that for coming on the channel. But you're on year 2. You're releasing like one a year, aren't you?
I'm gonna try to get it into like a 8 to 9 month, probably 9 month. I need to take a little break after this. I've been at this since the end of 2022, like when I had my mailing list, just getting my name out there and meeting all these people and stuff like that. But I kind of had a head start. I wrote this, what would be this, back in 2005, 6, and then supposed to submit to CrossGen Comics. They went out of business. Glad from all the horror stories I've been hearing over the past couple months and a year. I'm glad I didn't get there. But it was a nightmare to work for, like as like a writer. The artists got paid ridiculous amounts of money, so they're fucking awesome for them. But so I just put it on the shelf, and kept every now and then I'd revisit, take a couple years away, and then have a good idea. But and then really got serious
I
about
assume
this,
you
and I
were
sold
working on
bad
scripts.
comics. What?
You were working on scripts, right? That's what you were trying to submit to that company, weren't you?
Yeah, I was trying to get. There's no way I would have gotten accepted. I've even gotten turned down by publishers. I just did it this time to cross off a bucket list, just to say I did it. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to assume in this conversation the entire time that you made a fantastic product. I admit I had not actually read
That's cool.
your series. I'm just assuming it's great.
Yeah, I mean, on my first crowdfund, I did a floppy. Nobody's doing floppies really, which is like your standard 24-page supernatural action mystery surrounding a covert task force comprised of creatures from myth and legend. This Nancy Moon finds out that the monsters under the bed are protecting us from something worse. Quick show. So, I made
So you say it's 8 months.
I made over 10. I made over 10K, man, on the first book, which is
like I said, you are the
to,
counter example to my black pill.
Yeah,
I hear you did great with your crowdfunder.
Yep, and I hustled. I went out there. I got it into comic shops. Like I wanted this. I've wanted to be around in and around the comic industry in one way or another since I was a child. So and right there it says Number 2 right now is over 8K, and I'm
Uh-huh.
over 10K actually
So
because
I
I had
was
a
looking at
Kickstarter.
your page on Fund My Comics, which link in the description. Um, this is a after the campaign. What do you call it? Storefront? Not really, but
Yep, yep. Like right now, see in the first one, I saved up a little bit of dough and paid for the majority of the book to be done right away. Like worked behind the scenes and started leaking the art out there, getting on streams, getting out there, getting on social media, telling people, "Hey, I got this. It's coming. Take an effing look at it. Just take a look. That's all you got to do." I had a People say trailers are like they're not important. I had a trailer on the first campaign that made people just go, "Oh my god, what is this? This is hilarious, but dope at the same time."
yeah, I remember your trailer.
I mean, Royce said that's the best trailer he's ever seen for an independent comic in his life. So,
Yeah, there's quite a bit of nuance to why that worked,
mhm.
uh, which is an interesting conversation in and of itself.
It's knowing your audience, knowing what you have to target. I mean, I was in the army, man. Uh, I analyzed this thing like you people wouldn't believe. Like I had uh, a whiteboard of checklists and achievements and things that had to be done and things that maybe hadn't been tried. Uh, Tertiary marketing. Pay attention to marketing. Sometimes it doesn't matter who's saying it. Just because you don't like them. There is a nugget of information. I've gleaned a lot from a lot of people's and watched other people's mistakes. Like I see mistakes all the time. I don't normally don't say anything because it's none of my business. They're their own people. But if you come to me for advice, I'll give it to you. It's up to you whether you use it or not. And it's also maybe not going to work for you. What works for me doesn't work for a lot of people. I'm not going to sound arrogant, but not many people can do what I do because I don't have a YouTube channel. I have one thing on there, which is a couple reviews of my book, Vanity, and my trailers, and a short I did for the first comic I ever bought with my own money, which is terrible. It's terrible. I'm gonna keep it on there because eventually, once I get around to it and have some time to breathe, I'm gonna do some other shorts where I review just random stuff. Like that's something that not a lot of people are doing. The shorts, yes, but this is just like I'm not reviewing um X-Men #1 or like a Watchmen. It's gonna be a book probably nobody's ever heard of, and then if they like that, they're gonna be like, "Oh, I might go buy that issue," and then you're helping someone on an LCS.
As someone with a YouTube channel reviewing the random books they read, I don't know how I feel about this right now.
Yeah, but this just like I mean, in 60 seconds, you can't give a really good. Can you give an in-depth prose book review in 60 seconds?
No.
Okay, there you go. But I can. I could do 24 pages in 60 seconds. Boom, bam, quick.
Well, so that kind of brings me back to the disparity between writers and illustrators in comics because I respect the fact that your illustrator, okay, they're not working full time. If they're working full time, they'd be going faster. But even at the part time rate that they're doing freelance work for you, which I assume that's basically what they're doing.
Yep.
It takes them It takes them what 4 months, and you got an extra 4 months tacked in there for shipping and printing and all that stuff. Because you said 8 months was your aspirational turnaround.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It really depends on the speed of the artist, the art itself, like what the style is, a paper shortage, paper like a lot of people, believe it or not, use the same printer. Oh, so you got to
Yeah,
get
I
it
hear
like
the
you got to
printer
get it in a
are
queue.
terrible.
And so you try to do that in advance. Check it, but don't wait till the last minute to go. Oh, I need to get this perk, and then look around, and it's
Okay,
not going to be there for like another couple
so
months.
let's call it 4 months of work by the artist. Uh, for a 40-page comic, I could. I'm a bit of a fast writer, but I could probably write that script in 2 days.
Yeah, I
The,
can bet like with the mythicals. See, with the mythicals, I've got 6 issues written pretty much. Just the first 2 edited, and um, I got a lot of plates spinning. I got another IP that's starting to creep into my mind and take up some time, but
Yeah,
I'm ahead.
if I was a billionaire and I could just throw money at an entire art studio to turn
Yes.
my ideas, and I did
Yeah.
all the writing, I would
Well,
need
that's
like
the that's
100
yeah,
artists.
yeah, that would be those Powerball tickets. But anyway,
Oh, I buy them.
yeah. So and with this, you would. I lost my train of thought.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because we just came to the agreement that the writing of the story is incredibly critical, but it just doesn't take the time that the illustration does, and that's probably the
Yeah.
root of uh, why
Oh,
the two
yeah.
halves are looked at differently.
I can write like I already have the rest of the Mythicals plotted out, and I have like like what I call bullet points, and it's just like what I want to occur in the issue, and then when I go to write the script, I quote unquote fill it in with awesome shit. So I can I can literally like if I when I go to I kind of forgot what happened between a couple issues, but luckily I wrote it down. So I can go and look at, let's say, issue 9. I could write that in a day, quickly. I have it like if I had a weekend without my wife and kids, which would I don't know, I would have to be in jail for something like that. Uh, I could probably finish it with some coffee. I could probably finish the rest of the series, but I don't have that luxury. I'm not saying like without my wife and kids would be a luxury. I'm just saying I don't have that luxury of time. Like I write on my breaks at work, sometimes in the bathroom. I'll like be on my phone and I've got this long document that's constantly going. Every writer has one. Um, so, but if I had the money, I could finish the rest of this. I could bring my sci-fi idea, my historical fiction idea, my all of my ideas to life. It's just money is the problem. That's why I'm crowdfunding. So give me money. That's why
All right,
we
so because the writer uh, takes so much less time for the product, I think it naturally falls to the writer to be the marketer.
and the project manager, all of it. Like
Sure, awesome.
South River Studios. I am South River Studios. I'm the shipping department. I'm logistics, customer service. I'm everything except for the art team. But without my art team, I'm nothing. Without this book, we are a team. We're a band. Uh, I'm a Rush fan, so like, and so is the inker. I found that out. Uh, so
I can't take
we have that bond too. So it's like a band when we have everybody together at the right time.
this rush.
Talk to the chat. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. All right. So while he's gone, I'm going to reiterate what was in my other video about word of mouth, because I created that video because a lot of people claim that certain YouTubers are just selling to their audience, which kind of misses the point. To like get a creative work out there, such as a comic book, such as if you need to pay thousands of dollars to an illustrator so they can spend 4 months bringing it to life, they want the money up front. Most artists don't do royalty schemes. Nice.
Hemispheres, but it's the 40th anniversary. Check this out. It has an entire. It's like four records, and one of them is an entire live version of 2112. But this is like one of them.
Yeah, I started collecting records a couple months ago when I realized that if I have my official YouTube account logged in, I can't. I have advertisements on my YouTube Music. That drives me nuts. So I was just like, all right, I'm gonna just actually have physical media over here to listen to while I'm like editing videos or something. So you probably have more than I do, but I have quite a stack building up beside me. Okay. Anyways, back to the word of mouth, random walk stuff. That I believe that there are two things to assess, two mathematical values that will determine a product's success, be it the reach of a crowdfunder, the total sales of a book, stuff like that. One is your initial audience, because if you don't tell anybody that you have, for example, released the Cyberpunk Manhunt book available for sale now, if you don't tell anybody, your audience size is 0 and your sales will be 0. So you have to have a certain amount of people that you can directly contact and that they will just consume it. And that is selling to your audience, such as making a YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers on it. Subscribe, by the way. And just selling to your audience. That is one of the two values. The other is what I call the reproductive rate, which is, okay, you have sold to the people that you're connected to. They, if it is a good product, are going to tell other people about it. And those other people are going to glom into your future initial audience. And the better your product, the more that a random consumer is going to be able to spread it to more people, who in turn will spread it to more people, who in turn will spread it to more people, and you'll get an infinite sum that eventually closes in on some number, right? So if you are like HOJO and you have somehow no initial audience, and yet raise thousands and thousands of dollars, that's doable through the reproductive rate, is because you create a product and you hustle it and you pitch it to people and convince people of it as such. But that's to the quality of the product when it comes to crowdfunding, and it spreads. Which is why I would say it's very fair to say a small creator who raises $100,000 is a lot more impressive than a big creator who raises $100,000.
Wouldn't that be something?
But people have a habit of just looking at dollar values, especially when it gets hidden by merch, which you want to include, like the psychology of getting people to back a crowdfunder is really weird and bizarre, and it's a lot of marketing trickery, unfortunately.
Yes. Luckily, nobody really bought my merch that much in the first one, so I carried it over to the second one, and people are still picking it up slowly but surely. But you can always reuse it.
Yeah, that is something I wonder if is what you're doing. So there is an old adage in the publishing industry that the best way to market your book is to release another book. And that kind of applies to graphic novels as well, I think. If I were to, for example, create, if I just personally funded it and sold it essentially at a loss, aka at a price point where I am getting some profit, but I'm basically just paying for the printing and the shipping and getting it in people's hands and taking a bit, and I recognize that I've lost money in the cost of production. Because the next time I do another graphic novel or start a series or start doing Dracula versus the Aztecs or something, I've already paid for the production of that first graphic novel, and I have presumably captured more people with the new project. I can just add in the other projects, such as, hey, I'm crowdfunding Mythicals 2 right now for this collector box. You can also get issue 1. Because you just have to print them. You already own issue 1 as an IP. You just have to send it to the printers and get it to people, right?
Yep. And if you overprint those, you'll always be able to sell those copies, presumably. But like you said, the retaining rate that's important. And it's also all right with crowdfunding. As we'll just say graphic novel, comic, whatever. It was explained to me by a good friend, now a good friend. They're not buying your comic. They're probably not going to read it. They're buying it because it's you. They're buying you, and it's a number 1. It's just special. Don't take offense to it. You get them back for number 2, then you have something. There are a lot of graphic novels that haven't initially, that are late and then haven't come through, and then there are ones that once they release number 2, they don't do well. And guess what? It's because people didn't respond well to it, and they didn't like it, and they moved on. Either that you were an asshole and you pissed them off, or you did something retarded online. Whatever it is, it's all connected. They left you for a reason. So
you're completely correct from everything I've learned. I just hate the fact that it's accepted that people will buy a comic and not read it.
Yes, I know. I cannot stand it. But when you talk about the fund in total, and right there, sales numbers to me, that doesn't mean anything to me right now. Because for one, I did not raise my shipping prices. And in fact, I'm trying to get it to where the actual cost goes down for the next campaign.
Your prices are low, man. I'm
Yeah,
worried about. I
not
don't
as
know how
low
you're
as
making
some
profit.
people, but I try to do it. I can because I'm not trying to rip anybody off. I just said I want to break even, make comics for free, give people a story, and make comics that I would want to do, and then I can collaborate with other people on other projects. I love talking to other people. I'd like to get together. I'm talking with another friend of mine on like writing a story together. I've never done that with anybody. That would be kind of fun.
No, don't do it.
What?
That's my opinion.
Don't do it. Okay.
No, you simply won't be on the same page as them.
Okay.
In my opinion, we can talk about that some other time.
All right.
I want to answer Emily music here.
It's almost like
like
kicking some ideas around. Like we just like, oh, we should do that. Like it's we can collaborate because he has a lot more experience than I do. Like with comics, but so like I said, the backer count. The backer count is what matters. That you grow. It's not funding total. It's units sold.
Right, but no one ever talks about units sold.
That is what matters. That's why Marvel and DC. Sorry, I know the truth because I know people who work in that area. I've met. They know the deal, man. The jig is up. Like it ain't units sold. Nobody cares. The numbers are bad, but and that's why they don't release them. That's why you see all the shells on there like, oh well, they made X amount of money. Look at this. Newsflash, dude. That shit don't work on me either. My wife's an accountant. But it's if you want to grow, you have to expand and you have to look for places and even Luke Stone talks about it. A lot of people are starting to talk about it. You need to. You said you find your initial audience. I did find it clearly. Now I'm trying to expand it.
Let me quickly clarify. When I say initial audience, I don't mean like at the start of your career, your initial audience. I mean at the start of the life of any product you're trying to get.
Okay. Yeah. Like I wouldn't say like I'm grown as much as I can in this community. There's still people I'm meeting every day that I'm like, oh, you know this person, you've backed these books. Check this out. But I'm trying to get people who maybe don't even know about the indie scene or just like were like me 2-3 years ago. It was like, I didn't know all this exists. I didn't know all you cats were out here doing this on your own and making it. And like, you don't need what John Douglas affectionately calls trad pub. You don't need all that. I want to find those people and be like, look at all this shit here. You don't need to buy that just because it's a property you've bought your whole life. And I say that as a hypocrite because I kind of do that with the Hulk. But you don't have to say, I don't have to buy every X-Men title. I have to buy Spider-Man, even though like I'm reading it and I'm like, oh God, this is terrible. I could do better. Well, then do it. Go find something else. I'm trying to find those people.
So that brings me to a big concern I have with the indie sphere. And I will start with a more general accusation that I should probably turn into a short. I personally think that Hollywood, like SAG-AFTRA or someone, should be suing Disney right now because Disney and the MCU are the flagship blockbuster, which I think normies use as a litmus test for the health of Hollywood. Because they say, okay, there is this mega corporation that spent $1 bajillion producing this and marketing it everywhere. This has to be the best thing, or at least good enough out there compared to its competition. Because you'd have to be crazy to spend this much money and produce something trash. So when people see that, and then they show up to what was the ensemble one that everyone forgot? The Eternals, I think.
Oh, gross.
And normies are going to see that and go, "Oh, this is the best Hollywood has. I guess I'm not going to the movies this year." And everyone beneath Disney's shadow, even if they're making something fantastic, they're not going to get that chance because the normie was filtered by what appeared to be the flagship. Make sense?
Yep. And but I'm not gonna say a counter, but I'll give you an example on the flip side. The horror genre, which obviously I'm kind of steeped in. Um, it has been
That's
taken
right.
over by the independent scene. Like
Um,
they don't really know it because all right, you look at the blockbuster like you're talking about, what the ones that have come out like Scream and Halloween, all the horror
horror's never
dystopians.
really been my genre, to be honest.
Yeah,
But I think the issue might be that if you sat down with a producer and said, "Here's $1 billion or $500 million to produce the best horror film possible," I don't know how they'd spend that money except on drugs and women.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I would never give Michael Bay money to a horror genre, but like it's all just like constant reboots and sequels and stuff because the mainstream horror stuff like it's been dead on the vine for a while, and the normies don't see it, and then like the horror normies like they don't want to admit it. They're watching slasher, they're watching The Last Drive-In, which is like it's if you know the horror scene, that's you know what I'm talking about. Like they don't even know they're dead men walking. Like it's only a matter of time before they just be like, well, let's just remake Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy Krueger. Oh, what if we had them fight? I'm like, dude, we had that a long time ago. You guys are just so dumb that you can't get it together. They can't
Movies with
create anything
Hellraiser and
new.
comics too.
Like I just man, I have just they have
All right,
become AI.
so
All of it. They can't create anything new.
let's bring us back to the indie sphere, though. So you find a normie who is open to being convinced. Where are they going to start? They're probably going to start with what appears to be the most successful product, and they're going to use that as a
Mm-hmm.
litmus test.
Yep.
And right now, that means they're going to start with what, Cyberfrog and Ripiverse, and that is going to be how they judge everyone else in that, everyone less than that success rate.
My first book when I got here was The Lucent from Michael Bancroft. It's the first one I backed, which is I mean it's like a
He's probably
it's
making, from what I've seen, you probably chose correctly.
and then the second one I got, the first one I received, second one I backed, but the first one I received because Australian customs, Michael.
Ooh.
Um, I got Inglorious Rex by Shane Davis, who just had surgery today and still drawing. Didn't take pain meds with his because he's a badass. And he came on my radar and he did a DC book called Earth One. It's Superman, like
Okay,
back
so
in
maybe
2008.
I'm just wrong with how people are approaching this, but my concern is that if someone's first experience with any comics is either a shockingly mediocre comic that they
Mm,
see a lot of people gushing over, or it's 2 years late,
yeah.
or worse, never fulfills because they went to some literal who, and that they're just going on months and months after when it was supposed to be arriving, they still don't have it. If that's their experience, uh, they aren't. Why would they stick around in the indie sphere if they get burned that hard and gaslit about quality?
Yeah.
That is what I think is the worst thing that can happen to the growth of independent alternatives.
And also with a normie, and you had to convince me to. When I heard independent comics, independent, when they said it, I heard it in my head. It said amateur. You have
Well,
to get that mindset out of the way, and a lot of these, and
so as
it's
a prose novelist, I am constantly fighting the fact that there's really no reason to think I'm worse than the trad pub authors currently releasing.
right,
The problem is I'm not compared to the trad pub authors currently releasing.
right.
I'm compared to the best of the best in the last, well, I'm compared against Homer at times. But realistically, of the last 100 years of Western literary fiction, that's what I'm getting compared against the best of the best of the best. The P.K. Dicks, the Robert Howards, the Tolkiens. Those are who are the benchmark. Even though nobody is really that good, but because that clout is associated with traditional, someone who's not traditional can't gets basically penalized by not having that clout, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a flaw in how humans think. I don't know of a solution for it.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you there. We all, I see. I wouldn't say delusions, but I see a lot of people like this book's gonna make 20 grand. I'm like, dude, no, it's not. Because you're doing a lot of things wrong, and it's not your art. It's like I don't know your. First of all, I don't know what your art looks like because you haven't released anything yet. You can't just say that it's going to do all this. Like this is the best ever. Like nobody's going to buy that if they don't know who you are. It's
Yeah,
just
so I see a very sad amount of people who fail to fund and get upset that they weren't given enough support
it.
from those people.
Oh my god, the entitlement, the fucking sorry, the audacity of some people. Like nobody is owed anything except for an opportunity, is what I say. And people are like, "Oh, well, you're not even owed an opportunity." I'm like, okay, you create an opportunity for yourself. Does that make you better? That's still an opportunity. Does that make you feel better? That's still an opportunity. You created an opportunity. You have an entitlement to create an opportunity. Then, if you want to rephrase it, um, you have to shoot your shot, but you've got to make sure your form is on point.
Sure, sure. But 40 minutes in, I finally gotten to my point here of that's the issue with crowdfunding. It's people who are too small and overestimate, they're too small to hit the monetary threshold necessary for a graphic novel.
Oh,
Because,
and then they say it's 200 page. It's gonna be 200 pages. I'm like, I'm not funding. A lot of people will hold off on that and not, and the book won't fund because they'll be like 200 pages. You've released two, and they're not even colored, and there are no letters. We can't see what else we're helping fund. I'm not saying what I'm paying for, whatever we're helping fund, and then that spreads to the other person, and it's just a hesitation. A lot of people don't want to start backing it until it starts ticking up. But how do you do that? By following the roadmap, and then don't. And when you don't fund, don't
not
blame
doing
it on
a
everyone else.
project unless you have a big enough initial audience.
Yeah, I
Like
like.
that's why I haven't started a graphic novel. It's not for my lack of ability to write something good. For the record, I can send you the story I want to make.
Sure.
Um, it's because I know I would need to create the art product I want to sell to people. I would need to sell 1,000 copies minimum,
Yep.
and that would be probably still with me taking a loss.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell from my prose novel sales, I don't have 1,000 buyers.
Yep.
And no amount of yelling and begging to YouTubers is going to work, because if that's how you're getting in front of people, I think that's just a fundamentally unpleasant way to get buyers. And I think that's why it leads to not getting, you sell copies and then people forget that they backed it and they don't read it and stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's like I tell people, like the initial battle is not to back the book; it's getting them to read the book. There should be more reviews out there, y'all. That's like you were talking about, like the spreading, the word of mouth. That is it nowadays. Like people watch the YouTube, like a review, but how do you get people to watch a review? Eh, I'm not a YouTuber. I don't have the answer for you. I could probably analyze it and tell you how to, but um,
Yeah, another problem with human psychology is people we have been trained by the internet to hate advertisements. People install ad block. People habitually jam the skip button to get through an advertisement. They will pay money to not
mhm.
get advertisements, which is
Yeah,
the craziest thing, because theoretically, an advertisement is providing you an opportunity to buy something that you should want.
yeah,
We should be viewing advertisements as a favor, but they have become so intrusive to our lives that we hate them.
hmm,
So if you make a video where it's just like, um, guys, I just read The Mighty Sons of Hercules by Kursova, and this is the best fucking Pulp Fiction adventure anthology I've ever read. I'll get 20 views. It just doesn't work because no one clicks on it. People click on drama, which directly encourages this ankle biting of I failed to fund, so I'm going to attack successful creators
oh my god,
because
yeah.
I feel that I'm entitled to their support.
Yeah, that doesn't last long. It might bear a little bit of fruit in the beginning, but it won't come back again next year. The crop won't come back. You have to build a solid foundation to be able to build that skyscraper, man. I'm not discouraging anybody by any of their methods. Go do your thing, man. This is capitalism. You have every avenue available to you, do what you want to do, man. I'm doing something that I've always wanted to do, and I'm trying to do it
Oh,
right.
absolutely.
And
You got to.
I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I'm just trying to do it the best I know how. And I mess up sometimes. I say spicy things. I'll lose a follower from time to time. But my opinions on the world aren't reflected in my book necessarily, except for talking cats. Um,
Uh,
but it,
well, let me respond to chat here, Emily.
yeah, I got that.
The thing that you're missing is, as a writer trying to create a product, we are paying a huge sum of money to someone else to work for us to create that product. So the minimum bar for success is us not going broke. It's breaking even, which most crowdfunders don't, especially in an era of inflation and shipping costs being wrong and printing companies screwing you over. The metric is not actually any number of units sold. It's for the product that you had to pay money to create. Are you able to do it again? Which most people are not hitting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
And I
tough.
do think it's because people are crowdfunding when they don't have sufficient initial audience.
Yes. That's you have to like I tell people, you got to do your own homework, as Glenn Beck says. You and I told Nick Weiser with this. I was like, man, you have to want it. Like this is an industry. This ain't a game. You can treat it as such, but
Wanting
you're
it
gonna get
plays into how much work you put into it, right?
you get out of
Are
it
you
what you
sitting
put
every
in.
night up till midnight, sitting there studying your script, trying to figure out why to make it better? That's
Oh my god, yeah.
how you create a product with a very high reproductive rate.
And even after that, even after the script is good and it's the book is drawn and it's in my hands and the letters, I still have to look at it and I'll read it out loud. I've done that from the beginning. I read it out loud and I'm like, that sounds retarded. That sounds stupid. I got to get rid of that. I'm gonna change this. I just said this like 4 pages ago, and then I call my editor. I'm like, why didn't you say anything, Lee? But uh, this is my baby. I love the story, and I want other people to love it, and I'm doing everything I can to get people to see it and to people to enjoy it. It's like it's. I'm not saying I'm doing it's a limited series. It's not like, oh, I got all these crossovers planned and I got this spin-offs and stuff. Nah, man, I got 13 issues planned. The last one's double pay or double size because I just had to have like a Battle of the Five Armies type end, and I needed the extra real estate, and then I thought of something else that was going to be kind of cool. So once this is done, it's done. But for when people get 6 issues into this and look back at issue 1, they're going to be like, "Oh, I see it now." Um, I just want everybody to look at this at the end and be like, "Oh my god." Like I had no idea all of this was going to happen to all of these people, and at the end of this, like nobody is the same. Nobody.
Okay, so I get what you're doing. I certainly understand that from an artistic level. I'm kind of envious, but I also think you're making a mistake because I can compare what you're doing with issues to how I'm releasing my prose novels, right? If you've watched the books I've released, I have one sequel, if you don't count my long running epic fantasy series. Because I've been bouncing between, Bastion Blackstone is my flagship, is what I call it. That is going to get a yearly release. But I am jumping over to standalone projects to push my skills to get better at the art form. To try, let me do some comedy, let me do some romance, let me do a
Oh
heist,
yeah, I've done that.
to try and develop using those try-fail cycles, so that when I come back and release the second book, well, I have the equivalent of like 9 books more experience between book 1 and book 2 in this series, and it shows in the sheer quality. So I intentionally haven't actually drafted the full story to Bastion Blackstone, partly because it's a detective series, right? Like one case per book is how it's set up. So you can just buy one, you get your complete story.
Right.
But it's because right now I'm trying to be humble and say I'm probably not good enough. Or rather, by the time I'm finishing the series, I don't want to feel like I've handcuffed myself to bad decisions I made when I was just getting started.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I sell somebody faceless, they'll buy a Gamma Coin because it's good, and Gamma Coin is faceless but better in a lot of ways.
Right.
But I can't get them to buy my other stuff.
Yeah. It's
Because
like,
people just don't shop like that for some reason.
yeah, I mean, unless you're that guy, like everything you touch is gold, and like I just have to have everything by X creator. And I have a few friends like that, and I have another friend like he's been really successful with a certain genre, and he tried something else, and people were like, mm.
My
But
Epic Fantasy Undying Emperor, that actually is by volume my by far largest story.
right,
I have like 1,600 average readers per chapter. I think maybe 10 of them have bought my science fiction. They just will not give it a try.
nice. And I mean, like I guess I mean after issue 1 dropped, and I got 2 writing commissions out of that one, so
Hey,
that was cool.
nice.
One of them from a friend. Like it's kind of cool that he trusted me to do something for him, and that's a comedy. I mean, like straight up zany. Like I can't say anything about it other than it's almost like The Mask,
Dude,
and
comedies are so fun to write.
it's a parody book too. So I'm like, I used to love Mad Magazine and stuff like that, and I didn't really know that was in my wheelhouse, but like I was cracking myself up writing it because I tried. I mean, if you're on YouTube and stuff, and like that's kind of my thing, like because my coping mechanism is comedy and like to be funny, kind of be a smartass, and that's my thing. Like that's my Twitter persona. That's me in real life because I really don't give a shit. Um, I'm me. It's just it's like Spinal Tap cranked up to 11. So I don't like I'm I guess as real as they get sometimes because half the shit I say online is exactly what I'd say to my friends in real life because I was in the army, man, and I was I worked with infantry and stuff. Uh, you have no idea the shit that I've seen and the dumb. Oh my god! But you have to be able to make people. You have to. I was an only child, so I make that. That's also my coping mechanism, like I say, because I'm an introverted person. People don't know that. Most writers are. It's very rare that you get that gregarious writer that's just like Ethan. But Ethan's an artist. But
Right,
if you
very.
listen, like I've listened to some of Ethan's first streams. It's like, hi, this is Ethan Van Sciver, a former professional. Like,
Presentation skills are
it's not like I love Ethan to death, but like it's nothing like that wasn't EVS. That's Ethan. That's Ethan Van Sciver. Like it's not EVS. Like it is all of this stuff. It is a skill. You have to hone your craft. You can't come out of the gate. I'm not saying you can't. I don't see it making like 6 figures nowadays. This isn't 2018, 19. The boom is gone, man. You have to work for it. It's the same size pond, and maybe the water's going down a little bit, but there's more fish every day. There's ducks now. It's everywhere. I can hardly keep up because everybody's seen it. Like the gold rush is over, but it's still trickling off. But now you're going to see these. You're going to see it now. The ones that can survive, and you have to have good comics. You have to have good, as you say, product, but you have to tie it in with customer service, not being a dick. You have to complete the picture, or you're not going to make it, man.
All right, we're coming up on the 1 hour mark, which was the intended length of this, and it's been a great conversation. Unfortunately, I don't think I've been convinced I'm wrong. I think crowdfunding is a trap for new creators. I think what I'm doing is the correct thing, which is I'm a writer. I'm sticking to actual writing because this costs me a couple $100 to get to market. It's print on demand, and there's no question of is it available because people can just go on Amazon and buy it and then they get it. and it'll sit on their shelf looking pretty, but hopefully they read it and leave me a review. And then they see, okay, this is James's 2023 quality. Maybe I'll check in, watch it. Maybe I'll give him a follow on Twitter, and later next year he might release something that I'll like, and then okay, the quality is getting better here, the reach is getting bigger, because I can go through the try fail cycles on these books, 10 a year, and get better year over year over year over year, as I convince people that I am worth giving a try on. And eventually that theoretically will give me the connections rather than just being like, well, I supported your comic. Why aren't you supporting mine?
Yeah.
Because theoretically I will have gotten people novels and said, yeah, I'm the writer for this graphic novel I'm doing. Here is my ability to write. I'm working with this guy. You can very easily judge this illustrative quality, etc., and build justified relationships. Because trying to pay for, if I want to do a short story, like a little horror graphic novel that needs 80 pages, that's what, $20,000 in art possibly. So
yeah, it's good art ain't cheap.
So if I need to raise $20,000 for the artist alone, that is on top of the paper price and the shipping price in the sale of that graphic novel, and that requires a lot of people to get it to a price point where it's not like I'm asking $1,000 of 20 people, right?
Yeah, it's price point. That's a whole nother stream right there. It's a marketing strategy for sure, and word of mouth is still key. Like, I used to work around, like, in high school and stuff, like following a lot of bands and stuff like that. Flyers, they work, and you got to generate interest. And in comic books, show the art. I'm saying this as a writer.
That's what I think. You need to have money to just prepay for a lot of marketing material.
Yeah, and my advice would just be get a few images together. You're going to want to shop around for the minimum, maximum, I guess you would say 2 months. That way, during those 2 months, you could get, maybe 5-6 pages done to show something on the campaign that's really important. But in order to generate interest, you have to talk to people. YouTube is still the most effective method. Social media is. And Fiona Wolf in the chat, like, as far as, I see that a lot, like, under somebody like shilling, and it happens to me too. Like, I just don't pay it. I don't pay it any mind. Like, if you put something out and then they put their link underneath in my reply, like, that's fine, dude. If that's what you want to do. But there's a difference between telemarketing and finding, if you monitor social media the right way and you see somebody back in something that's similar to yours or like in your sphere, just talk to them. Don't be right away like, hey, here's my book. Talk to them and like, hey, what are you into or whatever. Same thing as like going up to somebody at a convention. That's how I would treat it. Like, because I'm doing my first convention in a couple of months.
By the way,
walk up and talk to people, man. Talk to people.
The reason I won't go to conventions is I don't want to deal with sales tax.
Yeah.
Because if I sell a copy of my book in the state I live in, I have to register with the state of Michigan, specifically as a business, paying sales tax and shit. And the amount of accounting bullshit involved in that has actually kept me away from even bothering.
Yeah, I'm married to an accountant, so I'm blessed. She handles all that, and I'm giving her a headache. But I mean, it is what it is. You just, like I said, you have to want it. You have to go out there and you have to get out there and get it out there in front of as many people as you can. And sometimes, and a lot of times, that requires making friends with people, networking, and working your way up to try to get on bigger streams. And you make your best of your opportunities. And then they say build your own platform and stuff. Like, I've done it in a unique way where I don't really, like I said, I don't have YouTube, but I show up in a chat and guess what? people know who I am.
People know who you are. You have an initial audience for sure. And by the way, I almost forgot that I have this because do you know one Joe Catapano?
Yeah, Joe Cat. Yeah, he does Star Circuit.
And he sports indies because what I have.
Oh yeah, I remember he did a fan art. Did you win that?
I'm the one that won this, yeah.
Oh,
I've
right
had
on.
this for
Yeah.
months now because I was just like, I'm gonna keep this hidden until I have HOJO
Oh
on.
yeah, Joe's a great. Yeah, that's amazing. See, and as a creator, that right there, that's interest. Like somebody went out of their way, like an artist. Like me and Joe aren't friends, or I mean, we're friends on Twitter, but like he knows me because he's like, oh, you're the Mythicals dude. Like, oh, your book looks great. Because he saw it on Twitter because I was promoting it. Like I told people I was out there with like a one-legged hooker that hasn't eaten in a week. I got to do what I got to do. But I'm not rude about it. Um, just have to be personable. Don't be a dick. I know I say that a lot. Don't be a dick unless you can afford
Joe,
to be.
this has been a good chat or an enjoyable chat. Still black pilled, unfortunately.
I know. Let me work on you. I only had an hour.
To those watching, I do want to advertise that one of the ways that HOJO and I connected is through my Gilded server, which is primarily for the book club this month. You have 1 week left. Is The Color of Magic by Sir Terry Pratchett, which I know is his bad book. That's why I chose it. So I compare it to his more recent books, such as Small Gods, to see the growth of one of the most famous authors. It's just a chill community. Gilded is a Discord clone. There's nothing special about it. And the link is in the description. You should come join that because we have a lot of creatives in there now. There's a lot of beta reading swapping going on and such. And right next to that link is if I have sparked any interest in my cyberpunk book that I still need reviews on. HOJO, closing shill. You already talked about your product. The link to the storefront on FMC is available because you're fully funded. The whole thing's produced and going to print, right?
Yep, we've already hit the $7,500 stretch goal, which is a free trading card.
You have there's no fear with backing you, even though the 2 comics that I've backed are both late, and I don't think one of them is ever going to deliver.
Yeah, and that's a selling point. First book was out in backers' hands in less than 5 months. I set the first one out in less than 5 months. It's fun. Like it's indescribable. Like to see people say I love this, or to say this is my favorite character, or to talk about it just means the world. Like fan art. It's
I need to get me some fan art.
Just hearing people like I literally got a message from the common nerd. That is Jesse. He sent me a message. It was like, I just read issue number 1, and all I can say is, you better hurry the F up with issue 2. That was right there. That's all I needed. It's worth it once people start to enjoy your story, and we're just getting started. So,
all right. Well, thank you very much for coming on, and I hope we'll be seeing a fundraiser for number 3 soon enough.
Yeah, August. That's the plan.
Try to survive. You sound tired. The very thought of the 3rd one, you're just like,
I've been pretty much at it since the end of 2022. It hasn't stopped because that was my thing. That's really, I think, why the trajectory kind of like went up a little bit, because I came back so fast again. There was like maybe 90 days, and then I came after I closed the campaign. They came right back there, and they're like, "Holy shit, you got issue 2?" I'm like, "Oh my god, the art's it's better." So yeah.
Yeah, you went through a try-fail cycle. Of course, issue 2 will be better.
You gotta. It's like being like I said, being a band. You gotta play those gigs. You gotta do what you gotta do, and then you gotta pay your dues. You gotta do that. But y'all have a great night.
Have a good night. I'm ending the stream now.